to be present at the wedding of his cousin, the Grand Duke of York, to Princess Mary of Teck. Grand Duke of York is George V.
Okay.
Queen Victoria was struck by the physical resemblance between the two cousins, and their appearance confused some at the wedding. Again, go back to the picture.
Yeah.
Even though Nicholas was heir apparent to the throne, his father failed to prepare him for a future role as Tsar. He attended meetings of the state council, however, as his father was only in his 40s, it was expected that it would be many years before Nicholas succeeded to the throne. Sergei Witt, Russia's finance minister, saw things differently and suggested to the Tsar that Nicholas be appointed to the Siberian Railway Committee. Alexander argued that Nicholas was not mature enough to take on serious responsibilities. Having once stated, Nicky is a good boy, but he has a poet's soul. God help him. Witt stated that if Nicholas was ever introduced to state fairs, he would never be ready to understand them. Alexander's assumptions that he would live a long life and had years to prepare Nicholas to become Tsar proved wrong, as by 1894, Alexander's health was failing.
Yikes.
Now, in April of 1894, as Nicholas joined his uncle Sergei and Aunt Elizabeth on a journey to Germany for the wedding of Elizabeth and Annex's brother Ernest Louis, the Grand Duke of Hesse, to their mutual first cousin, Princess Victoria Melta of Saxon-Coburg and Gotha. Yeah,
That's a lot.
yeah. Other guests include Queen Victoria, Kaiser Wilhelm II, Empress Frederick, Kaiser Wilhelm's mother, and Queen Victoria's eldest daughter, Nicholas' uncle, the Prince of Wales, and the bride's parents, the Duke and Duchess of Saxon-Coburg, and Gotha.
Right. Take a breath.
Jesus Christ, I got tired reading that. Once in Germany, Nicholas proposed to Alexei.
Alexei.
Alexei, excuse me, but she rejected his proposal, being reluctant to convert to Orthodoxy. But the Kaiser later informed her that she had a duty to marry Nicholas and to convert, as her sister Elizabeth had done in 1892. Thus, once she changed her mind, Nicholas and Alexei became officially engaged on April 20th, 1894. Nicholas' parents initially hesitated to give engagement to their blessing, as Alexei had poor impressions during her trip to Russia. They gave their consent only when they saw Tsar Alexander's health deteriorating. And yeah, they didn't like
They said
the Russian.
he's not going to be
Yeah,
alive long anyway.
yeah, the Russian family did not like Alexandra, who the woman Nicholas chose as his wife.
Oh, okay.
He had they tried to break him up. They send him one of the reasons why they sent him on that world trip is because he was so infatuated with Alexei, and like the heir to the throne of Russia, when in their youth years, they usually go around just man whoring it up with everyone they did. Nicholas is different because he didn't do that at all. Like he was like a one. He was like, I'm saving myself for the one,
Aww.
and then he met the one. And he
Aww.
was like, I'm saving myself for her, but his family was like, no, this is no fucking way we're gonna allow you to marry this goddamn woman. It's like she's a prick. So he actually like when he went on the trip, went on the world trip, and even before and afterwards, he was having an affair with a Russian ballerina.
Right.
And his family, like he was encouraged by his family for them to do that, but he still pined for Alexandria. So
Right.
yeah, he got married. Alexander III was laying dying upon learning that he would only live a fortnight. The Tsar had Nicholas summon Alexei to Imperial Palace in Lavia. Alexei arrived the 22nd of October. The Tsar insisted on receiving her in full uniform From his deathbed, he told his son to heed the advice of Wit, his most capable minister. 10 days later, Alexander III died at the age of 49, leaving 26-year-old Nicholas as Emperor of Russia. That evening, Nicholas was consecrated by his father's priest as Tsar Nicholas II, and the following day, Alexei was received into the Russian Orthodox Church, taking the name Alexandria Fodorvia, with the title of Grand Duchess in the style of Imperial Highness. Nicholas may have felt unprepared for the duties of the crown, for he asked his cousin and brother-in-law, Grand Duke Alexander, what is going to happen to me in all of Russia? Y'all are fun.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like it's going to be good.
No, it's not. Oh, he finally married Alexandria on November 26, 1894. He was coordinated May 26, 1896, in the Kremlin, in Moscow. At the time, St. Petersburg was the capital of Russia, the Russian Empire, I guess you would call it. Yeah, the Russian Empire. The Bolsheviks later, when they took power, moved it to Moscow.
Okay.
So at the time, the center of the Russian world was in St. Petersburg. So he's crowned. He starts having kids. But how do you feel about the story so far? What are we going through?
It's like I'm amazed that. But of course, when you read the story itself is not long until you get into how everybody got in the position they were in. So I get this information about how everybody got to this position. It's kind of like no wonder they had such an amazing amount of distrust from the peasantry, as they're called, right? No wonder there was such an amount of distrust. This distrust was very much earned by their relatives. The people whose descendants they were. This distrust was earned, and it's generational distrust. And you have all of this time where the peasantry is very much dissatisfied, and when they're able to do something about it, they see this current generation as representing the group of folks who got them there. I mean, and so their end, honestly, their end may not be so bad for those that who can be considered. I guess they were. I don't know how young they were, and I'm sure that 2 or 3 of them that were pretty young. They were pretty young. But yeah, the family themselves, not so much the individuals, but the family themselves earned it. And it's understandable that no one trusted them because it got worse. And then enters Rasputin,
right?
Who was giving them advice about things that he said. People were saying were mystical, and they're following it. I'm assuming,
right?
People can only take so much. And it's like every couple of centuries, right? People can only take so much.
Yeah, and the thing with the working class peasantry, whatever you want to call it, in Russia, they really didn't like the example that I give is not example, but with Tsar Nicholas, they really didn't start blaming Tsar Nicholas until things really started going really bad. They blamed the aristocracy and everyone around him, even before Rasputin. They were like, well, all these other people are bad, but the Tsar is... if the Tsar knew what was going on with us on the ground, he would be able to fix it. Until they was like, wait a minute, he is here on the ground, and everything's getting worse. Oh shit, it's all his fault. We gotta get rid of everybody. And even like with some of the like a lot of the peasantry would say that like they love the Tsar. They were like this because they were constantly through the Russian Orthodox Church and propaganda. It was the Tsar is brought by God. The Tsar cares about you. The Tsar, like we're the Tsar's children. Like if he just knows what's going on, he can be able to fix it. Until it's like he knows what's going on and he's causing all the problems.
Right.
So it really it really starts getting bad into his reign, especially like historians like, well, he was incompetent. Like, yeah, he was incompetent, but it was a lot of things he had done that was just like, dude, you should know better, but he did it anyway. Like the example we bring up here, the Russo-Japanese War.
Right.
Now, a clash between Russia and Empire Japan was almost inevitable by the turn of the 20th century. Yeah. Russia expanded in the Far East, and its growth in settlements and territorial ambitions, such as the southward path to the Balkans, was frustrating, combined with Japan's own territorial ambitions on the Asian mainland. Nicholas pursued an aggressive foreign policy in regards of Manchuria and Korea, and strongly supported the scheme for timber concessions in these areas as developed by the Brezno-Brest Group. Before the war in 1901, Nicholas told Prince Harry of Prussia, "I do not want to seize Korea, but in no circumstances can allow Japan to become firmly established there. It will be class bello."
Okay.
Now, he had wanted Manchuria and Korea for a long time. The Japanese were already in China fighting the Chinese, trying to seize Chinese land. And they were trying to get over to Korea, and then they ended up conquering Korea. And they were in Manchuria as well. The Japanese tried to get out of this war as best as they can. Mm-hmm. They were like, they had brought the Japanese emperor, representatives of the Japanese emperor had brought to Tsar Nicholas, like, okay, look, you can have Manchuria. Manchuria is all yours. Okay? And we'll work out an agreement and a trade agreement with Korea. But Manchuria is all yours. And you have enough resources in Manchuria. Like, we're not going to put up a scrap of Manchuria. Tsar Nicholas is greedy. He's like, no, I want Manchuria and Korea.
I want it all.
I want it all. And they're like, no, we got here in Korea. Mind you, the Koreans had no say over this at a certain time. But they were like, the Japanese was like, they were trying to get out of this, trying to not fight this Russian army. So, and also combined with Nicholas' racism against the Japanese, and not only that it was special, like I said, racism, all of Europe and in the United States have viewed Japan as this primitive freaking island. Oh, Monk Rasputin, they were not. So the war began in February 1904 with a preemptive Japanese attack on the Russian fleet in Port Arthur prior to a formal declaration of war. With the Russian Far East fleet trapped at Port Arthur, the only other Russian fleet was in the Baltic Sea. It was half a world away, but the decision was made to send the fleet on a 9-month voyage to the east. This guy.
Right.
The Japanese is totally encircled and decimating his Far East fleet. So he's like, well, we need to get that other fleet. Well, the fleet's in the Baltic Sea. Mm-hmm. We have to travel 9 months to get there. And it's a very large fleet. Yeah. Like larger than the Japanese fleet. This Baltic fleet outnumbered Japan 2-1.
Wow.
But you got to get 9 months to get over there. So the United Kingdom would not allow the Russian Navy to use the Suez Canal due to its alliance with the Empire of Japan, and due to the Dodger Bay incident when the Baltic Fleet mistakenly fired on the British fishing boats in the North Sea. The Baltic Fleet transversed